Hey, what's going on, Jam Fam? So, I know it's been a little while since I made a video, and honestly, I've been a little lazy. I just haven't really been motivated to actually sit down and make a video about anything in the game, but I have been streaming more over on Gaming Station, and one of the things that I did while I was streaming was that I did finish up my Janet push. And yeah, I know, she's only ranked 20, but honestly, I do feel like I played enough games with her to be comfortable enough to give my opinions and thoughts on her, as well as go over her kit a little bit. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to break down Janet's kit in case anybody's new or is looking for a Janet guide, and we're going to break down her best modes and her best matchups, and I'll give my thoughts on all this stuff as we go. And remember to drop a comment about if you disagree or agree with anything I say in this video, and if you're new and you enjoy my rambling, make sure you leave a like on the video. And with all that out of the way, let's get started.
Rocket Field awesomeness!
Alright, super basic stuff to start us off. My Janet's level 9 at the time of recording this, and she's got a solid amount of health at 5,040. That's right in the middle of the second tier levels of health, right around Jean and M's, and it's a pretty solid amount for her. She doesn't feel too tanky or too squishy for her role, so I do think this is a nice number for her. As for her damage, she does 1,400 damage per shot, and that's a little on the low side, but it's also balanced out by the fact that she has really long range and she has piercing damage, so she's really good at dealing with grouped up enemies from a very safe distance. Couple things to note about her attack is that the first thing is that it starts as a very short, wide cone, and then it gets more focus and long range as you hold it for a second. So I like to say that it starts kind of like a BB attack pattern, and then it turns more into like a Clay Pigeon's attack pattern, if that makes sense. And she also has an unload delay on her attacks, and she has a longer reload speed, so she's really not good in very close range fights. So make sure you're not picking fights with tanks, and try to run away from them when they get too close to you or something like that. And the last part of Janet's basic kit is her super. This lets her fire up her jetpack and fly around the map for a few seconds, dropping bombs underneath her as she goes. Now, this is a really fun super to use, but I also think it's really bad, and that's for a couple different reasons. The first one is that it doesn't really do a lot of damage. Mine only does 840 damage per shot, so that's not a lot. That's less than a Poco shot. And the other thing is that the damage is really inconsistent. I never really got the hang of landing shots on a consistent basis, no matter where the target was running. I think the best part of the super is the fact that it gives you a ton of mobility, and it can save you from getting killed because you can't take damage while you're in the air. So it can definitely be used for those situations, but I don't think you should really ever be using it for damage unless you're trying to go for like one sneaky kill here or there. And the other thing I really noticed about this super is you don't really want to use it when your team is falling back. If you're being pushed on and you activate the super, you're just going to go up in the air and you're basically just leaving your team out to dry, because it's going to leave them in a 3v2 situation. And in a mode like Brawl Ball, that's basically a free goal for the other team. Overall, I think Janet's kit is pretty balanced. I think she's got the right amount of health for what she does, and I think that her damage is a little low, but it's compensated by the range and the piercing damage, and her super is very weak, so I don't think it's like the best super in the game, but it definitely has its uses here and there. I think that in the right game modes and the right matchups, Janet can actually carry certain matches, but in other matches, like in like a triple tank comp or something like that, she's definitely going to struggle.
Fly me to the moon!
Alright, now for the leveled up part of Janet's kit. Her first gadget is called Drop the Base, and what this does is it has Janet put a speaker down on the ground that deals 100 damage per second to any enemy stuck in its huge range. The speaker has a decent amount of HP, and it decays over time, but it ends up lasting like 15 seconds or something like that. This is a great gadget in my opinion. It basically has all the utility of Sandy's Rude Sand Star power, that being able to deny people healing and also scouting bushes. Overall, I think it's very good, and it can be used in a lot of maps and a lot of modes. Also, you can deploy your gadget while you're flying around in your super, and I don't know how well known that actually is, but I was blown away when I figured that out, so I figured I'd drop that here as well. Alright, Janet's second gadget is called Backstage Pass, and what this does is that Janet's next attack will push her in the opposite direction that she attacked, and the amount that it pushes her is actually dependent on how much you focus your attack. Now, I haven't actually played with this gadget, and while most mobility gadgets are really good, I actually feel like this gadget is really bad. I feel like it's very clunky to use. You see, most mobility gadgets are pretty simple to use. All you do is press the button, and then your character either jumps or dashes forward, and obviously the exceptions to that are Buzz and Carl, but I feel like those are okay because those are normally used to initiate fights anyway. You're normally diving in to pick off a certain target here or there. You see, the difference between those gadgets and Janet's is that Janet's needs to be used more reactionary. So if somebody gets on top of you, you need to activate your gadget, then you need to attack, and you need to hope you attack in the right direction, and it gives you enough space to get away from your attacker. See, just explaining it makes it sound really clunky. Of course, like I said, I haven't actually played with this in a match, so I don't really know if it actually works out to be that clunky. So if I'm wrong, please correct me down in the comments. Okay, star powers. Janet's first star power is called Stage View. What this does, it just gives her team vision while she's flying around in her super. Not a lot to say about this. You use it on really bushy maps. Other than that, you're not going to get a ton out of it. We'll just move right on. Janet's second star power is called Vocal Warm Up. This makes Janet's attacks focus a little bit faster when you have it equipped. Now this star power it's just okay. It's not like Griff's old Keep the Chain star power where Griff felt really bad if you didn't have it equipped. Janet's fine without this star power, so if you want to use the other one on like a real bushy map, you could just go ahead and run that star power. But on other maps where there's not a lot of bushes, just run this one just because, it compensates a little bit. But like I said, Janet doesn't need to have it to feel good. Overall, I'd say Janet's star powers and gadgets are a little lackluster. Like I said, I really like the first gadget. That's a really good gadget. And the second star power is fine. But like I said, Janet doesn't need to have that. She functions fine without it. But the other star power is just really niche, so you don't really want to use it all the time. And the second gadget is really bad in my opinion. So overall, I'd say her gadgets and star powers leave a little something to be desired.
Flying high as a kite and ready to fight.
All right, let's talk about game modes. Now, Janet is pretty good at control-based modes in my opinion, so I definitely enjoyed playing her in modes like Gem Grab and Hot Zone. And I also found her really good in Bot Drop, but that mode's probably not going to stick around too much, so we don't need to talk about it more than this. As far as Knockout and Bounty, I feel like it's very skill dependent. If you're really good at dodging and stuff, and you can get over the range disadvantage that you're going to suffer when you face against snipers, then Janet can actually work pretty well in that mode. If you're not really good at dodging, I would avoid that mode entirely. Now, for modes that I would avoid playing Janet in, I would definitely say you should try to avoid playing Heist and Brawl Ball with her, especially on Ladder, because on Ladder, those modes definitely favor tanks and assassins, and like I said, she's not really good in close range fights, so she doesn't match up well into the meta there, so just avoid that entirely, unless you're playing with a team.
I'm about to crash and burn.
Okay, so for matchups, Janet's in a really weird spot. She's almost never going to hard counter any brawlers because her kit really isn't built for that, but she's also not going to get hard countered by many either because she's very well rounded. She's pretty decent into other mid-range brawlers, so matchups like Ems, Amber, and Penny, she can dance around their range and still do chip damage to them, so those are really good matchups in my opinion. I already mentioned she can work against snipers, but it's pretty skill-based in my opinion. It really depends on how well you are at dodging shots and getting over that range disadvantage. If you can get them into range and be able to do a little chip damage to them, charge your super, and then use your super to get a cheeky kill, it can work. Other than that, you should probably just try to avoid that matchup and switch lanes or something. Now, for bad matchups, I would say she definitely struggles a little bit against throwers. She doesn't have a wall break built into her kit, and like I said earlier, her damage on her super is very inconsistent, so you can't count on that to get kills on throwers either. Maybe you can use her second gadget to jump a wall, but you only get 3 of those per match, and I honestly think that's better to use defensively rather than offensively to try to get a kill on a thrower. So overall, I would say that's definitely not the answer to that problem. And like I said a few times now, tanks and assassins are definitely her worst matchups. She's got low damage, she's got an unload delay on her shots, and she's got a long reload speed. All of that combined makes it really hard for her to deal with tanks and assassins when they get on top of her. So you should definitely avoid those matchups and try to get your team to help you out when you face a couple of those.
Seems unfair since I'm rocket powered.
All right, so what do I think about Janet? Overall, I'd say she's pretty decent. I said in a couple videos that I thought she was a little bit on the weaker side, but it turns out she's a lot more balanced, and she even leans a little bit to the strong side, if that makes sense. I really underestimated her long range and piercing damage. I feel like that definitely carries her. And while I'm not a huge fan of her super, I don't want to see you get any kind of buff because honestly, if they give it a damage buff or make it land more damage more consistently, I feel like it would just be super obnoxious to play around. To me, she never feels like the strongest option to play, but she's good enough to get you through most matchups and modes. And if she's your favorite brawler or you just want to push her, you'll probably have a good time. But overall, I'm really happy with her kit. I don't think she needs any buffs or nerfs anywhere. And overall, I'm really happy that Supercell actually released a pretty balanced brawler for the first time in a long time. Anyway, like I said at the beginning, let me know what you think about Janet down in the comments. And if you disagree or agree with anything in this video, let me know down in the comments as well. But that's going to do it for this one. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.